All right. Okay, so today we wanted to cover two kind of the newer features that we've implemented in Oil Country OS, those being integration with Outlook and with QuickBooks. For the QuickBooks portion, we're going to be covering how to export sales orders into your QuickBooks company file. And I'll show you how to match up companies and inventory between the two using the external ID. So you don't have to keep track of the naming conventions of one system versus another. For the Outlook integration, we've added the ability to schedule sales orders in an Outlook calendar based on the date required. So if you know the date required for a particular order for your customer, you can just click a button and have it automatically schedule that event for you in Outlook on your Outlook calendar. So I'll show you how to the settings to configure that and how it'll show up in Outlook. So let's get started. First off, I have here my Intuit QuickBooks example company. I'm just using a trial version since I'm not an accountant and I don't have a license for this. So this is just a blank example company. And I have my Outlook calendar here. This is my personal one, and I've removed all scheduling for this month. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to go look at a couple of settings in the system. To get to those, we need to go into the admin console. You right-click on Settings and select Admin Console. Then we're going to go to System Settings. In here, you'll have to look for a few things. First is your accounting API. This tells OCOS, Oil Country OS, what file format to export those sales orders in. In this case, we're showing off the QuickBooks. So all you got to do is make sure that the value for this setting is QuickBooks. Okay. Then we need to look for another one further down here to set up our Outlook calendar. This one's a little, where is it at? You just kind of have to scroll through it until you find it. I think it's called Outlook. Where is it? It might be in the global configurations. Oh, that's right. It's taken off of this. Okay, so if you go into your settings and go into email, it uses this email address that you have here. So if you've already have Outlook configured, then you should be good to go. I forgot that we combined those two settings. It used to be a separate one. Okay, so let's get into QuickBooks first of all. So we're going to go into Sales. I have here a couple of active sales orders, and I'll show you how I've created those. They're for a company, Archon Data Purchasing. This is just a company I have in my webinar database with some kind of test information. Nothing in here is real. So just have a comment, have one line item, it's taxable. Okay. So here, I mean, you can obviously have much larger sales orders. If we go back to the Sales Order Explorer, if you have the setting enabled, this button here, Send to Accounting, will be visible to you. So in order to send something to accounting, all you need to do is select it and click that button. Important to note is that it will generate a file that you need to store somewhere on your computer and use that to import it into QuickBooks. you can select multiple orders. So if I wanted to, I could select both of these and opt to send them both to accounting. It's not going to generate a file for each one of them. It's just going to generate one import file. So you don't have to keep track of, you know, the imports individually. You can just dump it out to one main file and then import it. So that's really helpful, especially if you're doing it, if you're going any period of time between entering sales order into Oil Country OS and exporting them into QuickBooks. You can all do it at once, and what I would recommend is to do it by date range. I would just set the date range search here on the Sales Order Explorer, and then you can check to see which ones are outstanding. Once they have been sent to accounting, this checkbox will be checked, the sent to accounting checkbox for them. So you can see I've already tested these. I've already sent them once to accounting and deleted them. So let's create a new sales order to send to accounting. So I'm just going to use Archon Data Purchasing. I'm going to enter in some random number just so you can see kind of where it populates. And your cash only. I'm going to ship it from my webinar yard. And then we're going to tell it where it's going. Add a tax rate, and then we're going to add an item. As you can see, these jobs right here are already assigned to another order, so I'm going to pick one that isn't. I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to mark it as taxable. And we're going to sell it by joints. So now I can save this order. This is order 32. So we go back to the Order Explorer and do a search for our open things. You see that order 32 has not yet been sent to accounting. This checkbox, like I said, lets you keep track of which ones you've already imported into QuickBooks. So let's go ahead and get this one into QuickBooks. If we go look at my my QuickBooks file, I don't actually have any active customers in here. So Archon Data Purchasing, the company I have this sales order assigned to, does not already exist in there. If this is the case, Oil Country OS in the import file that it creates will automatically create that in your QuickBooks account. So if you're dealing with new people, new customers that are not in your QuickBooks, it'll all get taken care of on the import. Now, if you already have them in there, then the import file will kind of compare the two databases, right? So it'll look for, in this case, Archon Data Purchasing in your QuickBook file, and then add it under that company. So let's go ahead and select that one. You just use the checkbox here. And click Send to Accounting. Now you got to tell it where to store it. Now the file type is Intuit Import File, so it should default to that, the .iif. But if it doesn't, go ahead and set it to Intuit Import File. And I'm going to name this one Webinar 1, just for ease of access. All right. Now that I've saved that to now that I've sent that and exported it, you can see that order 32 now has that checkbox marked. So we know that it's already been taken care of. So you don't have to kind of communicate between different people. Now in QuickBooks, I'm kind of new to this, but it's fairly simple. You can just go to the File menu, go down to Utilities, Import, and then select IIF files. Now, if you're running a different version of QuickBooks, like I said, I'm running the Enterprise Solutions Trial, it should follow the same logic. You just go to Utilities, Import, and select IIF files. Now we got to find my webinar import. Here we go. And open that up. Now, if you receive any errors, this is where it's going to pop up. And usually that happens if there's a piece of data missing, or it couldn't figure out something. But you should see this data has been imported successfully, or a message saying your data has not been imported. So it's not going to import trashy data in here. It's only going to import what it recognizes as correct. We can see that now I have a customer called Archon Data Purchasing. So it created that for me. And a balance total of how much I'm owed from them. We have all their contact information. And that's taken directly from the OCOS company, your company in OCOS. So here's my invoice that I imported. If I double click on that, there's my sales order. We have the contact information, the balance, and the memo. This is my comment. And it puts, we have it automatically formatted to put the OCOS order number there, so order 32. And obviously you can edit any of this information. And you'll have a breakdown here by line item. So fairly simple. You just use the Send to Accounting button to export that into an IIF file, and then use the import utility in QuickBooks itself to bring the file in. Now, let's say, does anybody have any questions so far? Now let's say we've already had Archon Data Purchasing in QuickBooks, but in Oil Country OS it's named something different. If we open that company in the Company Explorer, let's say this was Archon Purchasing 1, I'm going to rename that. Okay. So it's named something different than it is in QuickBooks, but it's the same company. What we can use is the integration tab here to assign it an external ID. What this external ID does is you're going to put the name of this company as it is in QuickBooks in this field, and that tells the import utility that it's the same thing, so it won't try to create another company. Because if I were to import that same order again, it would create another company in QuickBooks called Archon Data Purchasing 1. So what I need to do is put Archon Data. Oh, and we may need to have some. We can just use this thing. There's a character limit on it. In any case, that's how you would sync those up. So you don't have to necessarily worry about it creating multiple entries. So the customer name here is what you would put in there. So let me show you how it would do multiple orders. So we just did order 32. We're going to do 31 and 29. These I created these before the webinar started, and you can see they have one item on 31 and one item on 21. A couple items here. All right. So if we select both of them and click the Send to Accounting button, it's going to ask us to do the same thing. We're just going to name it something, double check that it's an Intuit import file format. And whenever we import it into QuickBooks, it's going to do that import with that one file for both of those sales orders. So like I said, you can do it all in batches. It's batch importing. So again, utilities, import IIF files. Webinar 2. And there, it took the external ID that I had signed it and created a company on that because it didn't recognize that these were the same. So that's how you would use that external ID, right? And we can see here we have two separate invoices. There's order 31. And here is order 29. Now you'll notice on order 29 here, it only shows one line item, while in Oil Country OS, it shows two. The reason for that is that this line item is marked outstanding. So if that is the case, then it basically thinks that this has not yet been fulfilled and the customer is not yet liable for payment. So if we uncheck that and save and then do the import, then it'll show up on there. So that's just you need to note that behavior with the outstanding. It's not going to show up on that QuickBooks invoice if it's marked that. Everybody following so far? We try to make it as simple as possible, and there's more than likely going to be revisions to this, as well as further integration. But for now, we're just starting with the sales order. So if no one has any questions, we're going to move on to the Outlook portion. Okay, Jonathan has a question, so we'll go ahead and take a little pause. And again, if you do, just type them in the chat. Yes, you can. So the question is, can you have external IDs for master parts and items? Yes. So if we go into the master parts list, and we're just going to find one of these guys, some tubing. You'll notice that it also has this external ID. Now, if you have material or part numbers or a stock catalog in your QuickBooks company file, then you can take the name of that part that corresponds to this 2 7/8 6.5 weight L80 tubing and put it in the external ID in the same fashion that you do the companies. And again, it's going to tell the QuickBooks import utility that this is not something new, that it corresponds to something that already is in our database, so assign it to that. If we look in here, it basically created this item in my QuickBooks database because I didn't have anything in here to begin with. Had I used an external ID for something already existing in my QuickBooks company file, then yes, it would have just placed it under that. That's great for your reporting tools, obviously, in QuickBooks and things like that. And if you do assign it an external ID, it will be inherited by the item number, by the job itself. So you'll have to basically assign it to the master part number, then the items themselves will inherit the ID. Yeah. All right, one more question. Shoot. Like I said, I'm not an expert on QuickBooks, so I'm not an accountant, so I'll just do my best. I know Oil Country OS, I just don't know QuickBooks. Yes. Okay, so will the invoice take the next available number in QuickBooks or copy the sales order number? Due to the requirements of some of our customers, we did not assign the QuickBooks order number to correspond to the Oil Country OS order number. It is possible with modification of the export file, modification of the code for the export file. But as of right now, it places the Oil Country OS number in the notation right here, or in the memo, excuse me. The invoice number will have to be either assigned, or if you have it set up to automatically increment in QuickBooks, it'll use that. But yeah, it's not going to use the Oil Country OS order number. You can obviously just come in here and copy and paste it into there and assign it that yourself, but it will not do that automatically for you. And that's more to that's more to just allow flexibility than to kind of limit you guys. It's just so more people can use it the way they need it to. All right. So let's look at Outlook, excuse me. Here's my calendar. This is my personal Outlook calendar. And again, you need to have your Outlook configured here in your settings under the email, and make sure that your the correct Outlook account is populated there. But if we go to the Sales Explorer, and this one is more of a work in progress, we're hoping to be able to get it to schedule more than just sales orders. But for now, let's do order 31. You'll notice the Schedule an Outlook button in the top right-hand corner of the screen if your global configurations is enabled to allow Outlook. What this is going to do is it's going to create an event on your Outlook calendar for the email address you provided using the date required field for the sales order. And I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. You know when this should be due, and you can automatically schedule it so that if you're logged into your computer, it'll pop up a little reminder that says, hey, this is due, we need to send that invoice out, we need to ship this out. So I've got this one scheduled to be due on the 16th of this month. So if I hit schedule in Outlook, it's not really going to do much. It's just going to kind of do it behind the scenes. But if you go into your calendar, we can see now that order 31 for Webinar Yard is scheduled for the 16th. There we go. And you can obviously come in here and make adjustments to it, set times. It kind of defaults to just a generic time frame, since it would be very difficult to track hours, hour requirements on OCOS. But it'll tell you the location, right? It'll tell you where it's coming from. Eventually, we want to get it to where Schedule in Outlook will allow you to schedule individual jobs on a sales order. As of now, it's only the entire sales order that can be scheduled. However, like I said, this is one of the work-in-progress pieces of OCOS, so we want to get it to where it's more customizable. But like I said, you can always come in here and customize it in Outlook. Sorry. So that one's pretty simple. I mean, any questions on that? It's fairly self-explanatory. It just takes the date required, the location that it's shipping from, and that's it. The order number, really. And this one can't. You can't do it from the Sales Order Explorer, like you can send to accounting. You have to actually open it up and schedule it in Outlook that way. Yes, Jonathan. In a sales order, you can come in here. What the question was, can we ship multiple jobs in one event? Yes. The Ship All button at the top right will allow you to ship all non-locked items on the sales order and load them onto a truck for you. So if I'm to demonstrate that, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to ship all unlocked material on this order? If either one of these were marked locked, then it would just ignore them. But since they're not, it's going to load them onto a truck for me. And it's going to use the ship to information to populate an outbound truck for me. So if you have 10 or 15 items, it's much easier to use the ship all than it is to go through and do it yourself. So you can see these two jobs have already been populated. Really, the only thing that's not is the shipper. You're pretty much ready to roll with this truck. think that's one of the newer features as well. Does that answer your question, Jonathan? And actually, once I complete these, it should actually mark them locked over here. So I'll do it. Yeah. You complete the jobs tallies now. It's going to ship them out. They're not going to be in inventory anymore. And I think it'll lock them on here. Yeah, see, it's locked now. So if you were to come back and add more items on this order and use that ship all button again, it would recognize that these aren't there anymore. Does that answer your question, Jonathan? And you can actually access that functionality through the right-click menu here on the sales order as well. Ship all. The scheduling right now doesn't do it on the job level. It does it on the sales order level. You'll see if you right-click here, you'll see schedule and outlook on the line items. Unfortunately, it's not fully functional just yet. I expect that within the next couple weeks or so, we'll have some more work done on that. But this is fairly recent development, so as of right now, the only option is to schedule the sales order. And like I said, you could go into this event yourself and add in the job numbers here, and kind of do it that way. But yes, eventually we would want to schedule individual jobs and kind of allow you to batch manipulate that. Baby steps, Jonathan. Baby steps. All right, guys. Well, it was a quick, short one today. Not that many new features, so unless anybody has any questions, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.